Unnecessary words in our writing tend to confuse our reader. And as writers, we want to make sure that what we are trying to get across, we do indeed effectively get across to our reader. I like to work with the KISS principle when it comes to writing. And that KISS principle is just keep it simple, stupid. In the sense that if you can say something simply, do so. Lots of words, lots of unnecessary words in your writing don't make you sound any smarter, but they can confuse the reader. So I want to give you a couple of tips about how to eliminate unnecessary words from your writing. The first thing you have to be able to do is understand and recognize if you do these particular things. And then once you start recognizing them in your writing, you will be able to correct them and eliminate them. So the first thing that you need to pay attention to after you have a draft and you start working on the revising and editing stages of your writing process, look for the words really and very, and really any other sort of empty words that you might tend to include in your writing. Sometimes these intensifiers strengthen what we say, and sometimes qualifiers like apparently or seem or possibly can soften what we say. And it's fine to use words like these when they are necessary. Sometimes they are not necessary. You shouldn't say that something is very unique because things are either unique or they're not. So it'd be fine to just say something is unique. And likewise, you shouldn't say someone is really smart rather than just using the word brilliant. So you should pay attention to places in your writing where you use the words really and very, and see if they serve a purpose, or if you're just being redundant, as in very unique, when unique would be enough, or if you're being lazy as a writer and saying really smart rather than searching for that one word, brilliant. So let's say that I had a student write this sentence. Accepted by 5 colleges, Jackson seems to be facing a very difficult situation. Okay, we've got some empty words in here. One is seems. Well, he doesn't seem to be facing it. He is facing it, right? And then we have very difficult. Okay, well, if the situation is difficult, it's just difficult. So this very isn't doing anything here, and the seems isn't doing anything here. So we can recast this sentence to make it much clearer and sharper for the reader. And so I would suggest to this student that she just revise that sentence to say, accepted by 5 colleges, Jackson is facing a difficult situation. So pay attention to your reallys and your veries. Highlight them, see if they're necessary, see if you can eliminate them. And if you can, do. Another way that you can eliminate unnecessary words from your writing is to avoid there is and there are constructions, and it is constructions. So try to avoid these types of sentence structures. Always think about leading with the subject for clarity. So for example, here is a sentence that begins with that, it is construction. Now, the reason that this is problematic is because what is it even anyway. Now remember, if you use a pronoun, it's got to refer directly back to a noun. Well, there's nothing for this it to rename, okay? So this type of beginning sentence construction, pay attention if you're doing this. If you are, revise those sentences. So we can easily revise this sentence, eliminating that it is, and just write a sentence that looks like this. Americans today must learn to speak more than one language. We have fewer words. We have clearer communication. And then an example of a there is, there are construction. The word there, T-H-E-R-E, can never be the subject of a sentence because the subject of a sentence has to be a noun or a pronoun. And the there, T-H-E-R-E, is neither one of those things. So find in your writing where you have there is, there are constructions, and recast your sentences. Most of the time you can just eliminate them altogether. So instead of saying there are 4 large moons and more than 30 small ones that orbit Jupiter, we're just going to get rid of the there are at the beginning and the that at the end and say 4 large moons and more than 30 small ones orbit Jupiter. Again, simpler, cleaner, way more effective in communicating an idea. So just as you are searching your draft for really and very, search your draft for there is, there are, and it is sentence constructions and revise accordingly. Be concise. Many common phrases use several words when a single word will do. So if you can cut a word out, you should do so. Editing wordy phrases make your writing easier to read. So for example, and these are some common ones, the question as to whether. Don't say that when you can just write whether, okay, whether or not, instead of the question as to whether or not. You see how we're taking a bunch of words and using one. Don't write there is no doubt but that when you can write doubtless or doubtlessly. Don't write used for fuel purposes when you can say used for fuel. Watch that word purposes. Sometimes it gets overused in our writing. He is a man who, we can just say he. He is a man who likes to swim. We can say he likes to swim. Okay. In a hasty manner can easily be rewritten as hastily. This is a subject that should become this subject. The reason why is that can simply be because. Owing to the fact that, you can substitute since or because for that phrase. In spite of the fact that, though, although. Call your attention to the fact, notify, remind. So if you can eliminate wordy phrases and replace them with one word, do that. So see, catch yourself. And the more you write, the more you pay attention to these things, the more you will catch them. And I will certainly point them out to you as I read your drafts as well. Okay, here is an example when someone is trying to sound very intelligent and ends up being completely unable to be understood. So this is an actual sentence that was taken from a government memo during World War II. Okay? So, I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to see if you have any idea what, if you had been an employee receiving this memo, if you would have had any idea what you should do. Such preparations shall be made as will completely obscure all federal buildings and non-federal buildings occupied by the federal government during an air raid for any period of time from visibility by reason of internal or external illumination. What the heck? Okay? We can tease out some things. Such preparation shall be made. So that means we're supposed to do something. Obscure buildings. So that means cover up in some kind of way. During an air raid, at some point from visibility, like being seen, by reason of internal or external illumination. So it has something to do with light, right? So we can tease that out. Now, if we were this employee, we probably would have said, what the heck? But if this directive had been written like this, we would have known exactly what to do. Tell them that in buildings where they have to keep the work going, to put something across the windows. Okay? Much clearer, much more direct, much more to the purpose. And this writer has been effective. So make sure that you are not confusing your reader with unnecessary words. Remember, if you can cut out a word, do so. Sometimes we are inadvertently redundant, which means we just repeat ourselves unnecessarily. So please be careful in your writing and try to catch these. All right, painting the house purple in color will make it stand out from the many white houses in town. We have a redundancy here that needs to be eliminated, a word that we can cut out. If we're going to paint the house purple, we know that it's a color, right? So we can just say painting the house purple. Campers should know how much wood is sufficient enough for a fire to burn all night. These two words mean the same thing. So eliminate one of them. Campers should know how much wood is sufficient. Okay? Finally, dashing quickly into the street to retrieve the ball, the little girl was almost hit by a car. Now look here. Have you ever seen anyone dash slowly? No. So we can eliminate quickly here and just have the little girl dash into the street. So I do not expect you to catch all of your unnecessary words initially. But what I do hope for you as the semester progresses, that you will start paying attention to when you are overusing or using really and very when you don't need to. I hope that you'll be able to eliminate there is, there are, and it is sentence structure. I hope that you will start catching those wordy phrases and use one word instead of 5 if you can, and eliminate your redundancies. So don't expect you to be perfect, but do expect you to improve.